I actually was with a realtor last night, and he had never even heard of the concierge service. And I explained it to him. Now, he'd been a realtor for 30 years. And I said, Mark, do you have any idea how many transactions you've done over 30 years? He goes, oh my gosh, a lot. And I said, and how much are you getting paid today on them? And he said, I'm not making a dime. Guys, this is the future for real estate professionals. You know, Elon Musk, he makes money in a lot of different sectors. Realtors are going to have to look at that because times get tough. You got to have what I like to call the bridge between closings, an income that comes in whether you're closing deals or not.
Hey everyone, I'm here with my friend Jerry Scribner. He is an entrepreneur and a real estate coach that focuses on helping real estate professionals earn more on every single transaction. How you doing, Jerry?
I am fantastic, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we've been meaning to do this for a while, and both just busy schedules. Probably more my fault than yours. But you've been diligent. Definitely excited to have you on here. We've met on a few occasions, and we seem to know more and more of the same people. But I think that's also major credits to you because you're such a phenomenal networker, and you're just out there connecting with folks and really seeing how you can add value to them and their businesses. And then like just before we were on the show, actually, you were spitting out some names. Like, yeah, I know him. Yeah, I know him. Yeah, they're speaking at my event. So glad we're able to get on here. But if we can start off, because you have a little bit different of a business than a lot of the folks that I talk with, but it's still very related, or at least it has benefit to real estate professionals, especially realtors, but it's not exclusive to realtors. It just happens to that you've gotten some good relationships with realtors. Before we get into all that, though, you're an entrepreneur, which is already kind of an interesting path, and you're probably an early bird entrepreneur, like way before it was cool. How did you get started in the whole entrepreneur journey?
Great question. I was a construction worker for over 30 years. I was actually a sheetrock hanger. And in 2007, my wife and I homeschooled our two daughters. So we had one income, and it was really difficult, to say the least. I mean, my daughters were 16 and 13 in '07. I had nothing set aside for college. I was 48. I had nothing in retirement. And other than that, life was good. And so I had always been fascinated with real estate and started going to courses and reading books and everything, and actually did my first flip in 2005 and ended up buying 4 single family properties here in Texas, and quickly discovered I'm a horrible landlord. I'm just too nice, and people would walk all over me, and ended up selling those 4 to a friend of mine. Today we do private money lending, and I'm with a group out of Siesta Key, Florida, where we invest in apartment projects and things like that. And in 2007, the way I was able to do all that, a dear friend of mine introduced a business idea to me that when I saw it just simply made sense. And he said I could keep my job, I could do it on the side. And so we took advantage of it, and it allowed us to create income and build some wealth to be able to invest in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how, and we'll get into the details, but at that time, obviously, you had some unique circumstances, which, I mean, you were doing all right, but there's definitely some need, and you were looking to grow. So when that opportunity came in, did you have a conversation with your wife, or from a family dynamic? I'm curious of how that conversation went down before you started running with it, or maybe you were both like, boom, this is it.
that's a great question. And actually, what happened, I mean, we were at the time when my friend introduced this to me in 2007, we had over $40,000 in credit card debt. And it was a pretty ugly deal. When we looked at it, it took us about a week. We looked at it, we talked about it, and we both agreed we should jump into this. Now, her idea was, I'll take care of the girls, you go do the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's all I needed to hear. You give me that freedom to be able to, because obviously it was going to take some time.
Yeah.
maybe, away from the family a little bit and all that. And so we definitely had that conversation. And cool thing was, in 9 months, we paid off the $40,000 in credit card debt.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's I mean that's impressive anyway, just being able to pay off debt that quickly. But to be able to do it, but also have the family support behind it. I've heard it said before from some other entrepreneurs, or just even folks that just had the side hustle, the importance of having that kind of like family huddle. And hey, it's like, let's talk about where we're at, what our priorities are, where we want to be, and then make a decision, because it makes it a lot easier. Because you're right, there's time cost to any extra thing you're adding in your life, unless you're removing something, which can be difficult to do when you're talking about a job. But unless you're removing something, it's going to cost time somewhere else. And unfortunately, that could be family. And it's just important to have the entire family on board. Otherwise, it can get a little messy.
Absolutely. I remember, Chris, in 2011, we had ended 2010 making some substantial income. And it was because our business had expanded into the state of Pennsylvania. And I really felt I needed to be there as often as I could. So over Christmas of 2010, we sat down as a family, and I just told my daughters and my wife, I think this is our opportunity. I think this is our chance. And we all agreed, go for it. And so it was funny, for about 3.5 years, on Mondays, I would fly to Philadelphia, and on Fridays, I'd fly back to Houston. And it ended up changing our lives forever.
Wow. So now you're working with real estate professionals. I mean, you're working with a lot of folks, but you have been working with a lot more real estate professionals, specifically realtors, but also real estate investors, a lot of which also are realtors, through a service that you called like a concierge service. All while, especially as it relates to realtors, helping or showing them how they can add profits and increase profits on every single transaction, while adding benefit to their client too. And really without much extra cost from time and management on their side. So can you tell me a little bit about that? Because it's definitely very interesting, and especially in an environment where we got transaction volume falling in the market, which that impacts agents' pocketbook. We've had low inventory before. Now we got transaction volume falling, and possibility, at least some folks think prices could be falling too. It's when we're talking more profit per transaction, that probably perks a lot of agents' ears, specifically in this market. So what is that exactly?
You bet. So everybody knows that closing day is a great day. Even though it can be stressful, the buyer gets a set of keys. The agent gets a check. The very next day, the agent is unemployed until the next closing, and the buyer is off setting up services such as internet, home security, energy, things like that. So what we've done is we've created a concierge service for the real estate professional to bring more value to their buyer. Imagine your buyer, when they leave the closing and they have to go search all these different firms to set up these services. What if the buyer had the ability to go to your website, set up all these services actually prior to closing, to take one more headache out of the way? Mm-hmm. Now you've brought a tremendous value to the buyer, and the agent has turned that one-time closing into a lifetime of commissions.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. And I can imagine, especially with migratory, like very large migratory changes in the United States with COVID, moving across towns, one thing. You may already know a lot of providers, but moving across state lines or even into brand new cities, it's a daunting task. It's daunting for us as investors, and I know them. I know providers, but it can be really daunting for clients in addition to just the very complicated, and sometimes unnecessarily so, real estate transaction.
Absolutely.
So what we were talking about concierge service and adding extra value. Well, what are some of these services that can be, and there's probably a lot. So what are some of the options that realtors can provide their clients? And then maybe let's highlight a couple of the options that you're seeing most realtors and clients find the most value out of.
Well, the first thing every buyer is going to have to do is turn on the electricity and
Yeah.
probably natural gas,
Especially in Texas.
especially in Texas. Now, in America today, the way things are, security is more important than ever. And we have partnered with Vivint, which is the North America's #1 home, not only security, but automation firm.
Mm-hmm.
And we have incredible offers for our clients that the real estate professional can offer their buyers. Also, internet. Obviously, most homes are going to have internet. And we have just an amazing offer through Verizon with a 5G little mini tower for less than $50 a month with no contract, no credit check. I mean, they're going to do all these services.
Mm-hmm.
Another biggie is cell phones. I was paying about $280 a month for my 4 cell phones, and I had 15 gigs of shared data. My daughters like to stream videos. We always went over 15 gigs. Today, I'm on the #1 rated network in America. And I took those 4 phones from $280 a month to $105 a month, saving me about $2,000 a year. But I have 50 gigs of 5G on each phone and a free hotspot with no.
All right, so we got electricity, natural gas, and now gas, is that all areas or is it?
No. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up. In the United States, about 19 states are deregulated for some type of energy, whether it be gas or electric.
Yeah.
For instance, gas in Texas is not deregulated. I do a
But
lot
electricity is in most areas of Texas.
Yeah, that is correct. In the state of Georgia, for example, where I'm a part owner of a 950 unit apartment complex, natural gas is deregulated, but electricity is not.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on each state. But there are 19 states that have some form of deregulation where we can do business there.
Yeah. So as far as the realtor, how does it really work? Or are you familiar with how they're proposing this to clients or how that's set up? Because a lot of times with realtors, we definitely want to make sure that it's a seamless transaction from start to actually before start, from when we're prospecting all the way till a listing agreement signed or a buyer agreement signed, throughout the entire process. So if we're just say we're talking with buyers here, through the entire process, all the way through closing, hand them the keys, and make sure everything's as absolutely seamless as possible, because it can be chaotic. There's a lot of moving parts. So how are you seeing agents introduce this into that process to really help the buyers have a smoother transition into their new home?
Great question. So I've never sat in the seat of a realtor at a closing, but I've been in many closings for myself. And I know on every closing, the realtor handed me documents of, hey, here's who you call for your water. Here's who you call for your electricity. Here's who you call for your gas. Here's who you call for garbage disposal, all that kind of stuff. Same process.
Yeah.
The good news is that because they would have their own, I like to call it a storefront. It's like an Amazon, but there's no products. It's just services that we're going to use. They would go to the realtor's storefront and just select the services they want. It's very simple. and it eliminates having to make multiple phone calls and all that kind of stuff. So if I were the realtors I work with, the way they do it is they bring it up right away that, hey, we do have this concierge service. It's just an added benefit to you, a part of working with me. And they lead them, all the way up to closing. And a lot of them set up the services prior to closing. And the customers seem to love it, the buyers, because it's a one-stop shop. They can do it in their own home, on the realtor's storefront, or they can do it in the realtor's office on the storefront. And it makes it very seamless.
Yeah, especially if you're able to do a one-stop shop as opposed to hopping around everywhere and then even shopping around everywhere, not knowing what to get. That's it can be very tedious, especially while you're going through the chaos of trying to buy a home and dealing with the lenders, your insurance provider, closing, moving, and all that other stuff. So, so this thing that you're working with realtors is not exclusive for realtors, though, because you work with other investors who naturally, typically, they're involved in transactions all the time. How are you seeing investors take advantage of this?
Same way. Well, if property managers do very well with this, think about it this way: like the 950 unit complex that we own, we never could make any money on utilities, on internet, on security. Well, now the owner of that complex can make money off those services and bring more value again to their clients. One other thing I want to mention, this is really amazing. We do health sharing, and many real estate professionals are self-employed, meaning they have to go buy their own health care. I'm not a licensed health insurance agent because it's not health insurance, it's health sharing, which I think is a far superior concept. I'll just give you my example. I was with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now I'm an older guy. I'm 64. My wife is 61. We were paying $1,600 a month, Chris, for Blue Cross Blue Shield. I mean, it's unbelievable. $1,600. Now, through our health sharing program, we're less than $600. Saved us about 12 grand a year. So it's another service that a lot of the real estate professionals take advantage of for themselves personally.
Yeah, we've seen a spike in the health sharing services, or not really a spike, but definitely several companies have come across my desk, and I know a lot of folks that both realtors and investors that use them. We have it with my family, and I was with Blue Cross Blue Shield before. And I don't remember if it was them or it was another insurance company, but I actually went to their own hospital, whatever insurance company it was, their own hospital, and they misbilled me. And then it took me a year of proving over and over that they were wrong and they actually owed me money. And they eventually sent me a check, but I'm like, come on, guys, this is like your insurance company and your own hospital, but I'm having to correct you. And they're all unique, and obviously everyone's got their own unique health circumstances. But we've been very pleased with health sharing. So, what are you seeing next with this kind of opportunity, and how people can take advantage of it, whether a consumer, which you do work with consumers as well, but it seems like a lot of your business is actually working with those that can impact many consumers, because realtors, they're dealing with hundreds of transactions a year. Investors, same thing. Like the apartment complex. I mean, there's hundreds of consumers that are going to be involved at that just one property, not to mention any other properties they have. So what are you seeing next with this kind of opportunity, and how should folks, if they want to learn more, how should they learn more?
You bet. So I actually was with a realtor last night, and he had never even heard of the concierge service, and I explained it to him. Now, he'd been a realtor for 30 years. And I said, Mark, do you have any idea how many transactions you've done over 30 years? He goes, oh my gosh, a lot. And I said, and how much are you getting paid today on them? he said, I'm not making a dime. Guys, this is the future for real estate professionals. You know, Elon Musk makes business in a lot of different, he makes money in a lot of different sectors. Okay. Realtors are going to have to look at that because times get tough. You got to have what I like to call the bridge between closings, an income that comes in whether you're closing deals or not. So, and the way we build this also is kind of a realtor broker relationship, where brokers hire and train realtors and, you know, earn a commission when a deal is done. We do the same thing. We allow people to be, let's just call them brokers, and they can attract as many agents as they want. I train them for them. I work with them, and we all share in the profits. So if anybody wanted more information, I could give out an email address, my phone number, whatever you would like.
Yeah, well, I'll put a link in the notes, and people can learn more that way. And especially they can reach out, and I respond to every message that comes through anyway.
You know, I'll tell you what's really interesting. I have 2 weeks ago, I was in Cody, Wyoming. I met with 2 realtors. The next day, I went to Casper, Wyoming. I met with a realtor, and he's also an insurance agent. That gentleman was so impressed with what we do. I told him, his name is Brian. I said, Brian, when I leave here, I'm going to be going through Cheyenne. I'm going through Fort Collins. I'm going through Denver, back to Houston. Do you know anybody there? He said, yes, my friend Sean is in Cheyenne and my friend Crystal is in Fort Collins. I met with both of them. Now, they're not connected business-wise. They just know each other through their real estate professional systems and all that.
Yep.
But now, on anything that Crystal and Sean do with me, Brian's going to get paid.
Yeah.
I've got realtors that send me to real estate professionals all over the country. So you may not do business in Florida, you may not do business in Seattle, but now you can earn, you know, from the concierge service.
Yeah, you've really highlighted on something that's with real estate commissions it's getting compressed. So 3% or 6%, 3% each side. That's been kind of the average-ish, various areas of the United States can be a little different, but that is shrinking every single year, especially as technology and especially like firms like Zillow, Redfin, flat fee brokerages start to compress that. So, and then now we've got this huge class action lawsuit that's threatening buyers agents commission. So there's a real possibility that entire buyer side could end up getting effectively wiped out, not in a literal sense, but the way some folks would want it essentially would do that, where buyers agents essentially they're just not valued as much the way that lawsuit's being presented and tried. What that ultimately means is realtors, they own a job. You own a job just like a W-2 employee, just like a house flipper or wholesaler. Every single transaction, they're out of a job. Like you said earlier, once that transaction's done, they can do it again and again and again. And it's a great way to make money. You can build a tremendous business out of that. But the moment you stop, or the market pulls back, or some regulation shifts, regulates it down, takes it away, you're vulnerable. And the only way that you can insulate your business from that is to diversify your income sources. So now I talk all the time about diversifying marketing sources. If you're only going after expired listings, well, maybe you should try, once you nail that down, maybe you should try a different marketing source like Google Ads, instead of just cold calling expired listings. So that way, when one dries up, you've got other ones to support you. Same thing with income streams. The problem with real estate agents is nearly all of them, their only income stream, the only income stream they have is commission. And when that income stream shrinks, sometimes dramatically, say in 2008, they're out of business, or they're hurting and they're having to go get another job. And it's one of the reasons why I love EXP, because they built like a 3 income stream model. So like now every agent has the opportunity to be supported by 3 different income streams: commission, also equity, also revenue share, plus whatever else they're doing, which for me, real estate investing. And then things like this concierge service that you're saying. So it makes a lot of sense why agents would be receptive to the message. One, it adds value to the client. That's always a win. 2, it adds recurring revenue, and that's nice, right? And then 3, it adds a diversification of income, which really goes to the point I was illustrating before. So I don't know. I like it. I've got a couple other. Or do you have any other final thoughts on that? Or
I don't think so. You did a great job.
I have a couple of closing questions that I ask. These 4 questions that I ask everyone. So I'll start with the first question here. So if you could give advice to your 20-year-old self, what would you say?
Don't go get a job. Go learn how to sell something and master those people skills. And I mean, I spent 30 years in the workforce. It was, financially, it was a nightmare. I would just not pursue that. I would be in some kind of sales, probably, or some kind of commission-based business where I could determine my success.
Yeah, where we had more control over your income.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What book or books have greatly influenced your life?
Number 1, the Bible. Number 2, without a doubt, was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Love that one.
That book, I read it. I read that book every January, Chris. I start the year off by reading that book.
My first sales job, actual official job, I read that book early on, and it was very, actually, I read it senior year in college, I think. And then I went on to take the sales job, and that was massively impactful. You can just use it in daily life. You don't need to be in sales to benefit from that. So love it. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Oh, that's easy. This is so funny. So in around 1998, I picked up the guitar and started playing a guitar for my daughters at church. They were little kindergartners, and they had no instrumentation. So I learned how to play really simple songs, and I really fell in love with playing guitar, and I fell in love with bluegrass music. And through 2007, I was playing music all the time. I don't even think you know this about me. I was in a band that in 2001 was nominated for a Grammy Award.
Did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? But when I launched my business in 2007, I sat my guitar down until 2019. And so since 2019, go back 3 years, I've been playing guitar as much as I can. In fact, my wife and I did a 55-day, we called it the Bluegrass Extravaganza this summer, where we traveled 8,000 miles across the United States, playing at bluegrass festivals all over the place, going to music camps, and just having so much fun. So for me, that in the last 5 years, I would say that's the biggest thing. And it got to the point in 2019, I said, my goodness, I loved playing music so much, and I stopped to build my business, and that's okay. But I got to pick this back up because it brought me so much joy. When I'm playing music, I don't have a care in the world. It's just fun. It's amazing to me that these wood and steel can bring people joy.
Yeah, it really is. So last, how can people reach out to you?
You want an email address?
It's going out in the stratosphere, the metaverse. So whatever you feel
Okay.
comfortable.
Yeah, it's fine. It's Jerry, Jerry, Scribner, Scribner, at Reagan, Reagan.com.
Love it, love it. And yeah, if you reach out to Jerry, just mention this podcast so he knows where you're hurting from. So appreciate it. Thank you very much. Look forward to meeting and collaborating with you again. And I'm gonna have to hear some of this bluegrass music.
There you go.